Sunday to learn about you're an artist, now what? So it's a little clever title. I wanted to make mention real quick, if you do not have one of these, this is all of our exhibits for the year. So on the back is the calendar. So we're here, Spring Fest, and these are all the shows and opportunities that we have. So I'll pass these around. Please grab one if you don't already have one. And I'll do these first. So as mentioned, our next opportunities are our photography show. Carl, I'm looking at you. And then art and expressions, a pottery exhibit. So both of these exhibits will be back in this space, our center gallery, and they'll be our next exhibits. You can enter for those by Monday, May 11th. And let's see what's next. Our next opportunity, sorry, this is just easier to have a visual reference. Art in the Park. We're partnering with the Iredell Arts Council in Statesville. It's in Martin Luther King Park. It is an outdoor festival, only 15 artists, and it's a jury opportunity. So if you're a painter, potter, glass artist, photographer, you can enter this. It's only $25. You would set up a tent. So this would be bring your tent, bring your tables, bring your artwork, and it's only $25. And apply by May 22nd. So that one's coming up in a month. And then last but not least, because we have more opportunities coming after this, our July to August exhibits, we have 250. So United in Art, because America's 250 this year. So that'll be all media, and that'll be in this gallery. And then Tell Me a Story, which is a literary themed exhibit, and that will be in our Skylight Gallery. So you can register for those by June 22nd. And without further ado, I will stop rambling. And now that I did my elevator speech, Rachel Haungs will be here today to tell you all about marketing and next steps. She comes from the corporate background of marketing, so now she is a full-time artist. So she's blending her two worlds, and she wants to share her experience and little lessons she's learned along the way. So I'll turn it over to here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you. Hey, y'all. Thank you so much for taking time out of your weekend to come. I really appreciate it. If you asked me a year ago whether I thought I would be here talking to other artists about what I've been doing, I would have called you a liar because that feels ridiculous. My name is Rachel Haungs, and I've been exhibiting my work for exactly like a year and a couple months, so not a lot of time. If that gives you a little bit of pause as to wondering what could I offer you, that's fair. As somebody who's pretty new to the space. That's what kept me from trying for a really long time, was lack of experience, a whole laundry list of things that I didn't have. A website, a collection, an artist statement, a bio, a description, business cards, logo, all of the things. So I wanted to come today and talk to you guys about not what held me back, but what gave me, you're good. Hi. What gave me the bravery to try anyway. And it wasn't the feeling of like needing to be ready. That never came. It was just showing up. So today we're going to talk about what changed, my background a little bit, and how I got started. I've spent a lot of time thinking about what I've done in the past year, what's worked, what did not, mistakes I've made, and the things that I knew I should have been doing that I could have brought from my career in digital and tech that I didn't. And I had to do retroactively that took a lot more time to implement. It's going to look like showing up, getting organized, getting visible, and saying that you're an artist and believing it and trying even when you don't, because the exposure therapy actually helps. And then I'll share what the workshops are going to look like, a couple takeaways, and open the floor to questions, because I'm more than happy to answer any questions you guys have about the workshops, my experiences, tips, tricks, all of that. And I'll also say it's not lost on me that I'm standing here in front of a group of my peers and that I get to call you my peers, because it was not that long ago that I was standing in front of my laptop at home, because I worked from home, but in front of a bunch of people in digital and tech that I found really intimidating. And it is so much better to be intimidated standing as an artist in front of you all than to be in that space. So I'm going to try and put my artist Rachel aside, who is drowning in imposter syndrome, and put on my marketing hat as I look at Leslie, who worked with me at my previous job, and share the stuff that I know, because I know this stuff works. I spent 15 years doing it, and I should have been doing it for myself all along. So I know that this is kind of like a key that they don't share, and I would really love to just make this process a lot easier for everybody. So about me, I have always loved art. My mom's favorite story to tell people is when I was in elementary school in kindergarten, she would always have to holler for me in the mornings, Rachel, it's time for school. And I'd be like, Mom, I'm watching The Paint Man. I love The Paint Man, and I wish I had listened to him, because I looked up some quotes to put on this to make it look fancy and visually interesting, right? The secret to doing anything is believing that you can do it. And man, I don't know why that's not what baked into me, and instead an obsession with trees, but we'll go with it. I can still smell the tempera paint from my first big art project in kindergarten. We got to do these life-size portraits of ourselves as like Nutcracker characters, and the agency of giving like kindergarten Rachel a paintbrush was the coolest thing. I was in like dance classes at the time. My mom had this vision of what she wanted her daughter to do, and that was great. I'm glad I did it. But when I got the agency to say, I don't want to stand on a stage and have everybody look at me, it's not lost on me what I'm doing right now. Thankfully, it's not a stage, but I got out of dance and I started taking art classes through a local community center. I think it was Cornelius or Davidson, I don't remember which. But I knew really early on that that was what I loved to do. Like, I submitted artwork to a bird magazine in elementary school. I don't know what kind of audacity elementary school age Rachel had. I do not have that audacity. I would like some of it back. I was applying for like t-shirt design contests. It's wild. It was very clear that was my love. Then I got into music, which is my other love. I started playing keyboard and flute, which seeped into my artwork. And I started playing guitar. I played in bands and participated in choirs, which wasn't so bad on the stage because I got to hide with everybody else. And that really inspired my art. I picked up a guitar, like I said, a ukulele, a job at a music store where I learned a lot of really relevant information I'll share in a little bit. And then I got into high school at the school with the largest art program in the state. What are the chances? And I got to study under Kara Matoka, who put me in every art class possible because I was a year behind. I transferred schools. I was a sophomore, and I wasn't going to be able to do an AP portfolio unless I caught up. So she put me in everything. I got to take graphic design classes at 17. This was 2007, which was unheard of. It was the only program in the state that offered it. And I studied under Ben Primo, who now works with the McCall Center. And I got to learn the Adobe Suite, and I was animating music videos at like 17, which is wild. I got more hands-on experience there than, frankly, I did tutoring in college. So I was very fortunate. And like I said, I got to do 2 AP portfolios. I was a super art nerd, head of the National Art Honor Society. I played bass flute, which looks like a Tonka truck flute. It was a lot. I was constantly associated with my affiliation with music and art. And I thought I wanted to be an architect because that was safe. It took something that I loved and made it stable. So I thought. So I was looking at UNC Charlotte, and I met with the head of the department at the time. I believe the architecture program was getting synced up with the fine art department, and I was trying to see about transferring credits, and they were like, no, can't do that. No AP credits here. So apparently that was all it took for me to abandon that idea and consider painting or design. So I looked at 2 schools, which was also very brave to only apply to 2, but I looked at App because their fine art program was baked into their design program, very hands-on, and I looked at SCAD. And all the while, all this journey, my grandfather is like my biggest supporter other than my parents. He's an artist. He did design. He worked in marketing. He sent me art supplies. He used to send me Cartier magazines with all of these features of artists that are hired by these design houses to make art. He was showing me successful paths. I didn't see it as that back then. And I called him when I found out I got a scholarship to SCAD, a nice one. It was a big deal. And I was thinking, oh my God, I'm going to do the thing, the big painting dream. And he told me, I don't think he meant anything by it, but he said, I know somebody whose son went to SCAD and studied painting, and now they're waiting tables. And that is where I took my permission away to consider this like a stable, feasible option. And I was happy to do design, but it was a compromise. So I went to App. And if you're familiar with my art, you know I'm a little obsessed with the mountains. Something tells me this is probably where I fell in love with them. I wrote off the dream, and I studied art and design through the College of Fine and Applied Arts. I dealt with the strenuous course load of design with more studio classes like a totally sane person does. Lots of classes that I loved and some that I did not, like lithography. I don't know if any of you have drawn on stones before. I'm seeing a couple smiles, so I'm going to go with a yes. But I got to take like film photography and learn an appreciation for what it takes to hand do what you do digitally. I got to take the brand new digital photography class and have a great excuse to use those student loans on a DSLR and became obsessed. I studied calligraphy with Barbara Yale Reed, who is an incredible fine artist and a wonderful mentor, and Mark Nystrom and Marilyn Smith in the design department, who were also incredible design experts and educators who prompted us to think of design as more than just a logo, more than just colors. You're taking all of the tools of the principles and elements of design and using them to creatively problem solve. And I believe deeply that it was that program that led to everywhere I went thereafter. My painting and drawing professors, though, saw right through me, because while I was taking these art classes, I was like getting the assignments done, and I felt good because art came very naturally to me, so I could check the boxes and do a good job. And I'll never forget, Jason Watson was my drawing professor. I don't know if any of y'all are familiar with him, but he's worked at the McCall Center. He's really, really inspiring. He looked at me and said, Rachel, this is fine, but what if you actually tried? It's humbling. So I'm like, I stayed up all night. Part of the problem. So I let that sit, and I sat complacent and doing just enough. And then Tim Ford, my painting professor, looked at me and said virtually the same thing. These are fine, but what if you actually tried? And thank goodness for Mike Grady, because he taught me to not take it quite so seriously and learn to experiment, which is where I learned to paint intuitively with emotion. And I got my bearings with color use. And then I graduated, and I didn't take it seriously, which was tough. I took a lot of side quests, though. So I did my due diligence, my rite of passage. I did dog portraits, which I love. Lots of pet portraits, mostly dogs. I did photography for a little while, which I really enjoyed, and it's something I want to get back to. I roped my husband into being my second shooter for a period of time for some weddings that I will never do again. So mad respect to everybody who does that, because wow. I did music photography, which I love, and I'm hoping to get into again. Not hoping, I will. And I taught music lessons. I did some freelance design. If you see this logo around town, it's a family business. I did that. And I took some art commissions. But where most of my focus was my career. So I got a job at 15 at a music store where I worked retail. That may not seem relevant, but when we're standing here in a space where all of these paintings are, where people work and have to have face-to-face conversations with other people about your work, it's very relevant. I was trained extensively on the steps of a sale, communication, guiding people through conversations to figure out what they want before they realize what that is, or even more so what they need, less what they want. I, like I said, have spent some time in education. I tutored at Appalachian because of my experience in the Adobe Suite. Thanks to high school, they didn't teach those things, so I taught there. And then I taught at a music academy after doing some freelance private lessons for a period of time And that's where I learned I really love helping people. And I believe deeply that half of teaching is learning how to explain things in a way many different people need to understand. It's like a challenge to me, and I really thrive with that. Right out of school, I got a job with a photographer in High Point doing photo retouching, which was really great experience to get a crash course in. And I did a little bit of marketing design for him. And then I landed at a sports marketing agency. And that is where I learned some of like the most valuable information that I still use. I had a heavy focus on brand design, obviously, but it was mostly communication and PR. It was a sports marketing firm, so we were doing press releases. We were doing live streams for superboat races, for example. I was behind a camera and then doing blog articles about it. They had developed a system for content marketing, which is like the written language essentially online about something, where they figured out how to use content marketing for SEO, search engine optimization, essentially your digital footprint, how people find you online. And as much as I ran away from that job after 5 years, that was some of the most valuable information that I could get. Like I said, we did everything from photography, live streaming, brands in a day, presentations for some of the local racers that I'm sure, well, they're probably not racing anymore, but they were. You probably recognize some of the names, to working with some of the vape companies around here, like a lot of local brands, which was really great. But I felt like I outgrew that place and decided I needed to move on because I needed to check more boxes, the house and the 401k and the insurance and the stability. My dad worked corporate at the same company for like 4 years until he retired, if that tells you where that desire came from and where it was modeled. Not a bad thing. But I moved on to one of the largest hospitality companies in the world. Apparently has a headquarters in Charlotte. I thought I was joining this little digital lab group. No, it was part of, at the time, like a $20 billion company, and we were launching new technologies. Very small team, very hands-on, and I stayed there until I was like 2 shoulder taps away from the CTO on the global board of this now $40 billion company. So far removed from the reality I'm in now. Very glad to be out of it. But it was a lot working at a digital and tech company at the rise of AI, the rise of automating everything, the rise of what feels like taking so much humanity out of things. And the pressure really started to get pushed. I got what I wanted. I was very fortunate, had my kids, got my house, got my team. I really love to mentor. I really love to help people succeed. And I'll never forget, one day, our senior VP on a call asked us, what are your goals? I see the sea of people that everybody wants to move up. What are your personal goals? You're never going to actualize your potential. I think I'm adding a little bit of embellishment to Alvin's speech, Leslie, but how are you going to actualize your potential in your job if you don't have personal goals? So I looked around. I'm like, all right, I checked all the boxes. Now what do I do? And I asked myself, that's career Rachel, mom Rachel, wife Rachel, daughter Rachel. What about me? What am I doing? And mind you, I had a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old. My son was about to go to kindergarten. It was a really big shift year. I'm still just getting my bearings postpartum, frankly. And I remembered, oh, you like music and you like art. And I started going to concerts again. And I set a goal related to art. But I had to face all the reasons why I did not pursue this in the first place. Can y'all see, by the way? Ish? Okay. I will also make this presentation available for all of you after, if that helps. I had, like I said, a laundry list of reasons why I wasn't taking myself seriously, why I wasn't giving myself the permission to try, and I'm sure they're familiar to all of you. The artist statement, bio, website, portfolio, collection, cohesive, body of work, one lane, right? Are you going to do prints? Print on demand site, audience, who are they? What are your photos like? Do you have documentation? Maybe not everybody thinks of it that way, but like my marketing brain sees it that way. It's very hard for me to not be prepared, because in my previous role, managing a team, leading, I was responsible for projects that spanned like up to 12 weeks, being aware of all of the dependencies and the potential reasons something might fall off. We might be late and have to have an explanation for that, avoided at all costs ideally. We tracked time. We kept things meticulously organized. We had an approach. So it was really hard to not look at this through that lens. But what I actually needed was permission from myself, which I'm still working on giving myself. So I set out the goal to put a piece in public, just one before the end of the year. I thought it was really important for me to source my own photo to reference from. So I started going to the mountains and looking for opportunities, because I felt like if I'm going to do this, it needs to be mine. It needs to not just be a stock photo. It needs to be connected to me. So thankfully, at one of my concerts I went to the next day, I got a tour up a trail near Asheville called Craggy Mountain Pinnacle. And I painted that 4-foot by 5-foot canvas and just lost myself in it. So then I sat there and I'm like, okay, you're an artist. You have a giant piece. Not to be lame, but now what? What are you going to do with it? So I looked online, probably didn't spend enough time researching, and I'm like, oh, I found this North Carolina exhibition to apply to. It's small, right? It's local. It was the North Carolina Artist Exhibition, and if you're familiar, that's not a small show. That's a pretty big one. I very obviously did not get in. There's no web presence for me at this point. It is my first iteration of an artist statement or a bio. No hurt feelings. I am glad I was brave because I got over the hump. So now I went from I only have permission to I have photos of my work. I have a title. I've gotten over that hump. I've considered pricing. Dimensions. I'm documenting things a little bit. I've written a bio, a statement. So now I have something to get started. So I'm like, all right, now what do we do? The next one that popped up was art fields, which, is not bigger than the North Carolina Artist Exhibition at all. I speak very fluently in sarcasm if you have not caught on. Art fields is huge. That was very aspirational. I did not get into that one either. So by the end of December, I have a small pile of paintings I'm at least creating more frequently. I started making paintings for my son, for his snack bag, to give him something to talk about in school. So I was making more regularly. I'm like, okay, I didn't do it, but I'm not going to beat myself up. We're just going to keep going. I'm not going to give up. And I finally listened to everybody around me. I don't know if you guys know the Taylors over at 158 on Main, but that's my brother and sister-in-law. And my mother-in-law, Pam, is friends with several artists that exhibit here, and she knows Kim at Four Corners Framing Gallery. And they had repeatedly been like, go to Mooresville. I'm like, but I don't know. Why don't I just aim for these giant exhibitions instead? Whatever. I should have listened to them. So finally, I see the winter juried exhibit application, and I say, screw it. And I applied. And I got it in. So then January 2025, I can now say I have shown in one exhibit in one gallery, and I got a stinking ribbon, which I still am incredibly bashful about. That was like the catalyst that changed everything, because it gave me the validation that I needed to actually try. It's a little emotional because it was like literally right there. It was a really big deal. So me being driven, detail-oriented, efficiency-focused, while maintaining my job and managing my household with 2 young kids, I'm like, all right, we're just going to try. Let's see what happens. And so now I sit here, not even a year and a half later, after getting into all of these galleries, which is such a gift, and these shows and meeting people and connecting with people and sharing my journey, and eventually rage quitting my job. Sorry, Leslie. I'm really sorry about that, with not really much of a safety net. I'm pursuing this full time and actually getting the guts to take myself seriously. Whether I believe I should be in this room or not, I'm doing it anyway. So, spoiler, you don't feel ready. You just have to do the dang thing. So what did I do? I'm going to be really uncomfortable and put a picture of myself up here. Again, and say I got visible. I don't like attention. I don't like standing in front of people. I don't want to post pictures myself. Every time I come in here and see the flyer, I'm like running in the other direction in spite of how cool it is. But I did it anyway because I asked myself what's more important. And this is a thing I have to ask myself a lot. Is it more important to be comfortable, or is it more important to be uncomfortable and grow? So we're here. Every room I went in making myself visible and applying to shows, I kept hearing these rumblings. Anytime I mentioned I work in marketing, people are like, you work in marketing? I'm like, yes, why? What can I offer you? I'm very new to this. And I would post and people would ask, you're in marketing. What do you do? What do you do? And I'm like, I don't know yet, because I wasn't taking myself seriously. But I can tell you, when it comes to marketing, as everybody's talked about it in the art space, it's like this lofty, unachievable, unattainable goal. Everybody says, I don't know how to do marketing, or I'm bad at marketing. I don't do social media. I don't get it. I don't see the point. So somebody who's worked in content marketing and strategy for a while now, I know there's kind of a checklist that takes you from something like this. This is my own piece. I posted the tiniest campfire painting. I want you to think about how many people are going to find this on the internet with that description, the tiniest campfire painting, with a whole bunch of hashtags. Mind you, it was 2017. Now you're only supposed to use like 3. But this is how I was operating. 1 post for each piece. 1 per piece in a sea of search results. And I know this is actually how you're supposed to do it, with context, to make it findable by the people who care about the subject matter or the style. There's things, like I said, a checklist, which I will share, that once you start doing these things regularly and more than once per piece, ideally on more than one platform, you start to build this web online. So you're searchable and findable. And I've really taken a look at this through the lens of a marketer, whether I meant to or not. Y'all all gave me so much information to learn from. Like I said, everybody says they're bad at marketing. I just don't think everybody has like the list of checklists to make sure they're getting it right, because I see a lot of effort. But I don't see a ton of people getting most of it right frequently, which means the bar is on the floor. So that if you start doing these things, you're going to see an impact. And I can give you a real life experience of how this made an impact on me in a minute. So what did I do? I determined, who am I talking to? I want to get in galleries. That was my goal. It's not go viral. It's not get rich. That would be great. But I just want to get in galleries and feel legitimate and immerse myself in this community. Spoiler alert, it worked. We're here. But I asked, who are we talking to? So I started finding local galleries. Mooresville Arts was an easy one to follow, and I started following the people that exhibited here. All of you. And I started studying, how are you posting? What captions are you using? What information are you putting out there? Are you using a CTA, a call to action, which tells people what you want them to do? And I heard a lot, I don't want to put my face out there. I don't want to try. And I just hear like, I'm afraid of being perceived. I don't want to be perceived either. But there's a lot of power in taking control of your own narrative so that you tell people who you are and what you do and the story behind what you're making. So I started following, taking notes. And this is how I went from just Mooresville Arts to the homegrown exhibit at the Kane Center. And this is how momentum builds. So I show here, I get that crazy award, which is amazing, which inspired me literally that night to go start Lake Junaluska, which we'll get to. And then I got into homegrown and sold that piece at the reception, which was, I can't talk about too much because I'll cry. It just was one of the most validating things to experience. And then I moved on and I got to go to an art talk from homegrown, and I met Kathy Weiss from the Guild of Charlotte Artists, which put me onto that community. And I kind of watched from, afar for a little while. I didn't want to jump in too deep too fast, but I started listening. So I started following them. And suddenly I became connected, virtually albeit, to all of these artists and all of these organizations, because frankly, all of you are making like beautiful stuff. And I love to cheer people on. I'm really sorry. I will like spam all of your pages with hearts and comments and reactions when the Guild turn off their comment feature. I was like, that was because of me. It just was fun. It's so much better than tech. Sorry, Leslie. And that's just how I started getting connected, and people started looking out for things for me, and I started learning from a lot of people. So some galleries to keep in mind that I've personally met with, worked with, that have different costs for participation or lack thereof, commission levels, and they're in different locations. Mooresville Arts, shockers, top of the list. Four Corners Framing Gallery. Guild of Charlotte Artists. I'll put this in the PDF that I will email out if you guys want it, by the way. Arts Mount Holly. Catawba River Art Guild was sharing events for Friday Arts Project. That's in Rock Hill. The Vapa Center. The Gallery at Morningstar. There's no cost for entry there. The Nth Degree Gallery in Boone. Also no cost for entry. You literally just show up. Come participate. Really cool hands-on community. And then there's other places. Retail spaces. Summit Coffee Shop, Wooden Robot, Charlotte Studio Artists, Homebrew Tap Room. There are so many that I have personally seen, been in, experienced, where the barrier to entry is really not that high. Where anybody who hasn't shown before or is wanting to get more work out there, that's where I would say to go. All from digging deep locally. So then I started looking online. I had already filled out a profile on Cafe Call for Art and Art Call between the North Carolina Artists Exhibition and Art Fields. What was really important that I didn't realize at the time was building my profile with like links to social, putting in all of the descriptions, going the extra mile with how I set these up. And I started looking for calls online. One of which was Arts to Hearts. I followed for a little while and ended up submitting to. And eventually applying for some of these garnered a little bit of attention. So I kept that momentum going. Next, I stayed inspired. I touched on this for a second, but so I'm working my full-time job, and I'm a mom and also a wife, and my parents live across the street, so that's a very present part of my day-to-day. And I was just really busy, and I needed to find out a hack to stay inspired while I'm putting all of this effort that I want to be putting into painting, into the admin crap that nobody wants to do, even myself who has lived in it for so long. So I gave myself a reason to hold myself accountable, and I started doing these Pokemon drawings for my son. Put it in his snack bag because he's very quiet, and I wanted to give him something to talk about with the people in his kindergarten class. And that meant I was drawing 5 times a week, every week, and I was not going to let him down because I will not let my kid down before I let down myself. I think I said that right. You know what I mean. And what I learned from that is finding challenges and hacks to keep yourself motivated. Again, remove the barrier to entry. Stop thinking so hard about it. Just like draw cartoons or something where it doesn't have to be serious. You can throw it away so you're flexing the muscle, and then share that. I can't tell you how many responses I got from just sharing these random Pokemon on my Instagram stories. People are like, what is this? Wait, do you have kids? I'm like, I do. And I started to build this community. And that camaraderie and community really makes a difference, especially when you're starting out. It gives you people to talk to, even when you're nervous and forget people's names. It just made it a lot easier. And I started to experiment on social. So this is that shift I kind of talked about, shifting from one post per piece to actually building content. And I know content is a word I keep using, content. We're talking about words that describe the piece, the title, dimensions, a story. In sharing this, I started sharing my point of view. And again, I asked myself, what's more important, me being comfortable or pushing myself as an artist? So I started showing my face, and I know nobody wants to do that, and I also hate it. But you can't argue with analytics, and that got a lot more traction, which is why y'all have seen my face a lot on Instagram this week. We can resent social media and the obligation to post. I get it, because I don't want to do it either. And I'm still not doing it the way I would recommend somebody do it. So do as I say, not as I do. But it is a free tool. And in the age of AI, hate it or love it, it's there. And people are going to search for local art or whatever, and AI is going to scrape the internet and serve up whoever has the best search engine optimization. So it's worth the effort, in my opinion, to make sure you're checking these couple of boxes and experimenting a little bit and just seeing what happens. Take it a little seriously, talking like 20 minutes a day or an hour once a week. Bake it into your process. Consider it part of admin work like you would clearing out your inbox. Not that I do that, but take it seriously and start to experiment and track. Look at the analytics that are baked into the platforms and see what resonates, and stop doing the stuff that nobody cares about, so you can focus on the stuff that actually builds a little traction. I tested trends. They're fun. I'm not going to be dancing on the internet, but I tried some trending sounds and hodgepodges of things, and they're fine for boosting reach a little bit, but I don't think any of you need to worry about getting big into trends unless it's a trending sound. I think it's just something to kind of get temporary attention. What I really saw success with was showing behind the scenes work, doing a proper reveal when I finished a piece, and when I started collaborating and connecting a little bit more with accounts, whether it's like golden acrylics. I don't know if you guys saw, they commented on my post, and back then I thought that was really cool. I'm like, I'll take some samples, please. I started tagging galleries. I was really nervous and timid about it. You can ask Kristen now. I tag them on literally everything. Sorry. It made a big difference. This compounded with building my online presence, made the launch of like a new mini series take off somehow. So I'm like 4 months in, and I start really stressing out because the world is stressful and I'm doom scrolling too much. So I start making these funky little instruments in my sketchbook. And I call them the band because I never got to be in a band. I was never cool enough to be on a stage in that way because I'm too anxious. So I started making my own band. And I had 3 different curators reach out to me asking me to submit my work to their show. Like 4 or 5 months. I don't know if like everybody experiences that, but that feels like a little wild to me. And one of them was with the Brooklyn Waterfront Artists Coalition. So we joked about like, I remember talking with Jessica and Kristen about this, and like, well, it won't get you to New York. And I was like, well, actually, some odd chance I did end up there because I built the SEO. He found me on, I think it was either Art Call or Cafe, found my social media, which at the time it only had my mountain paintings on these things. And he saw my brand new music pieces. It cost me $300 to ship this painting there and back. So we learned some things there about how to do that more efficiently. But within 6 months, I could say I was getting something right. I got a piece in frickin' Brooklyn, New York. And the only thing I regret is not believing in myself and buying the frickin' ticket to go see it, because for some reason after I applied, I'm like, I still don't know if I'm gonna get in. And the curator reached out to me, which is so silly. So that goes to show, even when you try and you don't believe in yourself, you still might be preventing opportunity by not just getting in the room and believing it's gonna happen. Okay, and then observe from others, kind of reiterating this. I started following more and more galleries, art influencers, people in the design and type industry, art organizations, print vendors, people who were doing content best practices for artists, to see like, I know how to do this in tech and all of these other industries. Is it the same here? And I started learning and taking lots and lots of notes because I knew where I wanted to go, which was markets and having things like prints and having multiple streams of income. Started toying with that idea. And I started interacting with these pages, which again helps boost your online presence. And then I started getting organized. So late spring, I've got a handful of exhibitions under my belt, and I've worked with a couple different galleries, and I start digging into storytelling, building out these collections, figuring out what an artist resume looks like for me, and looking at exhibition calendars and planning ahead. Finally believing in myself a little bit. Springfest has happened. I got this incredible blue ribbon recognition for Lake Junaluska. Sold both pieces. They were to family. I will say my aunt bought one. My father had to have the other one. Doesn't matter. They both sold at the reception, and it was just further momentum. So I started applying to markets, looking further out on my calendar. And that's when I really realized my marketing and technology brain was turning on to recognize patterns and identify where I needed to get my shit together. I feel like I have to whisper shit, sorry. I have to have 2 littles. So this desire to get things organized and documentation really hits home because I didn't take care of it early enough, and it kind of nipped me in the butt. So after, gosh, what was it? It was the market in the street, Jessica Sips. Thank you. It was after Uncorked and Artsy, and I'm walking down the street with my mother-in-law with one of my paintings. And lo and behold, this lady leans out of this store and is like, "You're Rachel Haungs." And I'm like, "Who are you and why do you know who I am?" That's how I felt. And she was like, "My name is Kim." I can't ignore it, sorry. "My name is Kim and I'm the owner of Four Corners Framing Gallery, the private gallery down the street, the big, beautiful gallery. That's right. It's very conveniently located for you guys. I'm just saying." She's like, "I sponsored Springfest. I want you in my gallery." I was like, "Okay, what?" Disbelief, again. Lack of preparedness, again. Getting in my way. I was like, how does she know who I am? I didn't believe in myself yet. It took me 6 months to get my shit together and go in there confidently, feeling prepared. And that was 6 freaking months that my work was not in her store, not on the walls, not getting seen. Well, I was showing here. Missing how many opportunities, not capitalizing on the momentum from I just will never get over it. The 2 awards, still kicking myself on that one. So, getting organized. Make documentation part of your process. I got really tired of digging through my emails and copying and pasting bios from Art Call and then submitting them on Google Forms and then realizing I never saved them anywhere, so then I didn't have them updated. I had to go take a picture of the little plaque and then type it back up. I found that injecting this into my process made it a lot less painful, especially when you consider how much time it takes to document like a dozen pieces. Photos, processing those photos, naming, measuring the frame as well as the original piece, when did it get done, the artist statement, the artist description. I mean, we're talking like an hour a piece. So if you just do it while you're working on it, I found it made it a lot easier and also made me prepared for when shows came about. I stopped being so reactive. I also considered things like hours into a piece and pricing. So then, again, when the opportunity presented itself, I didn't have to figure it out then, because that was another barrier to me maintaining this momentum. This also looked like something I had to develop over time, which was keeping a list of inventory for prints or physical products, standardizing things, using some templates. After my first couple shows, I was able to participate in the town of Davidson, with Mooresville Arts and Mount Holly. There was 3 different markets where I didn't have a clean set of information of what I brought, what I sold, what people said about what resonated. And that's all information marketing me knows is very valuable, because you take what is successful and you keep iterating on that. I also learned how important it is to keep your content accessible. So at the time, this looked like keeping my artist bio, my artist statement, and my descriptions and basic information about each piece in my notes app on my phone, because I was still doing it the hard way instead of publishing social on the computer, and copying and pasting instead of, again, going through emails and tracking it down. It really made a big difference. I found that at a minimum, keeping these things there kept me from scrambling, and it allowed me to refine and polish these things up because I kept revisiting the same content. What this led to was streamlining my applications and just building my confidence, probably more than anything. So then I'll tell you what Design Me hates is keep your files and your folders organized. Part of my corporate job was keeping our folder structures nice and clean and easily findable, and a lot of us rolled our eyes at it, but when I went to build my website, I did not have flyers, I did not know what went up where, didn't have information on the calls, and that was another thing to keep me from getting my website up. So I waited. And I still don't have all of my exhibitions on there because I didn't document things. Keeping everything organized in a way that what you submit to a show and then whatever you post online and whatever people reshare, as well as any press. I don't know if you guys have exhibited a ton here, but they get press here. That helps build your artist resume. It helps build content for your website, which helps build your digital footprint and your notoriety. So I've gone back and organized things based on year, gallery, vendor, and I have a track record of what has worked, what I've submitted where, and I can start to track. Then I started to need to plan ahead because I'm not reacting anymore. I can see ahead of me what these shows look like when they're happening. So I highly recommend getting a planner. I'm going to use an ugly word, making a Gantt chart, which is where you, if you're not familiar, kind of line up how projects stack on top of each other, which I'll kind of go over in my workshop. It's not the only way to do it. I accidentally did it by hand, and I looked down and I was like, well, Tech Rachel just showed up. Cool. But you don't want to be the person who's having to like pay a rush fee to print things or pay extra to get something framed because you waited to the last minute. You don't want to overrun yourself. You don't want to be juggling multiple receptions in a night. Ask me why. I know it was a gift, but it's a little stressful. So when you write out when your calls are due, when the submission deadlines are versus when they open, when drop-off is, when pickup is, when opening reception is, and you start to see where overlaps are, you start to see where gaps are, and you can start to plan for your other projects like getting test prints or applying for awards or grants. Not that I've done that, but you can start to take things seriously and plan out based on what your goals are. And then you can track your results. You want to keep track, again, of where you exhibit, contacts that you make. I try to make notes on everybody I meet because I'm horrifically bad with names, and I really want to make sure that everybody feels seen when I meet them, so I keep track of that. You should keep track of finances. I'm not going to touch on that. There are other people who know that very well. But keeping track of what sells, how people respond, and what you participate in will help build your artist CV and your artist bio for the sake of applying for like grants versus shows. All of this are going to be a little bit different. And you don't have what you don't track. So then I started getting professional. This looks like attention to detail. That does not apply to my Instagram stories. There are spelling errors everywhere because I just don't care. But attention to detail elsewhere. A little bit of artist etiquette I've learned that goes a really long way. Building on social, as well as participating in communities. So over the summer, I started to do some markets. I start planning for the fall. I want to apply for things like the holiday rotation at the shop here. What an amazing opportunity, because holy moly, this downtown is so much busier than the one in Huntersville. I'm from Huntersville, by the way. You know, okay? Great opportunity. And I realized I really need to get my shit together because I just don't have all of this prepared yet. I'm flying by the seat of my pants, building the plane as we're flying it, as they say. And this is where I made a boo-boo. I submitted, frankly, half-assed idea to this shop. I sent a couple pictures and was like, well, I could do this, or I could do this, and I could keep the prices around this. I did not get in. And frankly, whoever read that email and did not respond like, Rachel, that was not inventory. Please try again. I applaud you, because that's what I would have said. That deserved way more of my attention. So I dug into print vendors. I learned about how to package prints a little bit better so they feel a little bit more high-end. I've talked to Kim, talked about spacing around images, things like standardizing sizes, how to optimize prints for getting framed. Again, started working with the local printer, started showing more effort online. So this is where I started doing all the stuff I didn't want to do, which was talking to the camera, and I still hate it a lot, but I find ways to work around it. As you guys see, I do it in the garden when I'm just not overthinking it and I don't have makeup on and I just get the thing done. Something's better than nothing. But I started showing up more professionally online and networking and talking to more people online. I started taking press seriously. I applied for a coffee table book, which there's a cost to these things. It was like $60 to apply. The coffee table book was like $100. So take it with a grain of salt. I paid essentially to get potentially put in this book, but now I have this coffee table book and I can say I've been published. And there's a little bit, again, of notoriety to that. It was with Arts to Hearts. Apparently they're linking up with, I can't remember, is it Artly, an online exhibition space? So it seems like they're really starting to build a presence. I digress. I started clipping news articles and getting all of this together and putting it on my website. I actually put stuff on my website, guys. And I started saying what I was doing and what I want. I started telling people I'm an artist and I want to do this full time. I paint in vivid color. I love to paint nature and I love to paint music. So that way, as I geared up to ultimately quitting my job, I had all of these things in place. Now, I was able to quit my job because my husband was able to secure salary last summer, full stop. It's not lost on me, coming from a privileged place. But I still could not have rationalized making that jump had I not laid this foundation, gotten my shit together. So at least I know a direction to head in, and I've tested things. I never want to like sugarcoat or BS or make you guys believe that if you do all of these things, you're instantly going to be found and go viral. But you cannot build a website, build a presence, and build the digital footprint and get inventory together without solidifying some of these things. And so if you start to do it proactively and build it, it comes a lot easier and your work's going to be a lot more effective. I started to ask myself, how am I communicating with people? Am I making sure to say thank you when I get an acceptance, or do I just see the email and go celebrate on my own? Am I thanking them for resources, these galleries and guilds? Am I tagging them? At first I was a little afraid to tag. Not enough people do it. Highly recommend it. It goes a long way. I asked, am I doing everything I can to boost their efforts? Am I sharing information? Am I taking time to follow the prospectus? I did not always. I appreciate the patience, Jessica. Am I showing up in the way my work deserves? It was a lesson I learned the hard way very recently, how expensive it is to not just buy the 1.5-inch size canvas. So invest in framing, learn how to wire, follow the prospectus. These organizations take the time to spell out everything, and the least you can do, name your files, get nice, clean photos of your work the way that your work deserves, that are free from clutter, that are showcased. We're going to go over a little bit of documenting your work with your phone. You don't need a DSLR or a professional camera to do this. I'm happy to show some tips and tricks with that. Take the time, because I've been very embarrassed by how quick I was to just like ask some questions without reading the prospectus. And when you're managing a space with, how many members are there here? I can't imagine how many questions they get. It's just an added layer of due diligence that I would like to think goes a long way. And presentation matters. Again, this cost me opportunity. Not presenting my work in a professional, clear way for the shop, very embarrassing. But I started to build this portfolio to take to Kim because I finally got over myself and I was desperate to get out of my job. And then I took that and I started to put it together for my shop admission. And I'm happy to share I'm now in the shop, because this is what I sent. And this will be one of the templates that I share that can be used for inventory for products or a portfolio. It's going to be a little nicer than this. This is what I slapped together at the time, where your basic information, title, dimensions, whether or not it's framed, you can add things like pricing, inject your own brand or images. I'll show you how to do it pretty effortlessly on a free platform. But I started showing up in a way that I felt like would actually sell my work much better than an email of like, I could maybe do this. What do you think? What price should it be? They have enough going on. They don't need to figure that out. I started to figure it out. All right. You really want to show up physically and digitally for the community. This is where I've seen a lot of relationships build, where people have sent me shows that I wouldn't have seen otherwise, that have been giving me opportunities, and it goes both ways. I love, again, to help people, so that's just kind of how I operate. But I found a really big difference when I started filming the whole show for my social posts, sharing the work of others, not because I wanted something out of it. That, again, that's just how I like to be. I like to sing other people's successes, and that also deflects a little bit, right? Shows that we're a group. It really makes a difference. It gets people invested. It shows the gallery something that you're bringing to the table, that you're going to be here when they put on the event, when they have to pay for the hospitality or the musical acts and they've got to staff the event, that you're going to show up and you're going to show up for the other artists. Let's see. Then, yes, you have to show up physically. So this is where I want to talk about something that I do, and then I think a lot of artists do, when it comes to showing up physically is owning what you're doing and not undercutting yourself. Self-deprecation is a form of humor to deal with coping of discomfort, and I lean into it, but it does not help me. I got the opportunity to paint live at my home tattoo shop where they did this beautiful work. This is by Sam Woodson. So they were doing the summer solstice party, and I got to go paint, and this guy comes up and he's oogling over my paintings. He's like, "I'm Michael," and I'm like, "I'm Rachel." He's like, "Your work is beautiful. I love your animals. I'm doing an animal show." This is the president of the Guild of Charlotte Artists. Just stumbled in, introducing himself. And again, I'm just constantly going to be in shock of the people that I run into, and I put everybody up on a pedestal. But because I'm like, "Hey, I'm an artist," and he's like, "I love your animals," and we started talking, and I faked the confidence. He asked me to submit to his show, and I got in at the VAPA Center with very little to no effort, a personal invitation, where I met the vice president of the VAPA Center and a ton of really intimidating artists. Between here and there, I'm constantly inspired. I cannot express how much talent there is with both of these organizations. And that would not have happened if I had faltered and been like, I kind of do animals. Do you think he would have invited me if I had been blasé about it? Probably not. So these people you talk to when you control your narrative online and in person, these are the people who are going to bring you up in rooms you're not in and bring you opportunities because they remembered you. And if you follow all of these kind of etiquette things, it helps build that relationship. Which brings me to, I'm going to keep talking about it, not hitting the TV, interacting on social. And I want to show you a really cut and dry example of what can happen when you just interact on social. So I was sharing posts about the animal exhibit, and I tagged Michael. And he reshared it to over 100 people individually, sent them in messages apparently, because the analytics will share that with you. I've got my normal metrics for my last few posts on the bottom. 441, 520, 588, and 290. This had 10,000 views. And it only takes one person to buy your work. 10,000, because I tagged him and he shared it. How? I still don't know. I could never send individual messages to like 100 people, but that's the difference. And I got so much traction online. And once you start to get that traction and you maintain posting and you teach their algorithm that I'm going to keep showing up and sharing my message, your reach goes up. You just have to keep feeding the machine, unfortunately. So what it really boils down to is a few check boxes, which again, I'm going to go over in the workshop, but I'll give you some now. Are you tagging the gallery? Are you tagging the sponsors? Sponsors probably like to get tagged. Are you tagging judges or jurors? Obviously, navigate the situation as appropriate. If it's public information, maybe tag them, thank them. Other artists in the show? Retail brands? Jerry's is in Charlotte. Manufacturers, Golden. I love tagging Golden because I'm just on a mission to get some free samples. That paint is very expensive. Putting the location and tagging any guild memberships that you're a part of. That's just the interactivity part of things, not even the content. I can't tell you how many people I've encountered in this space that have thanked me for my social media marketing efforts. And y'all, I'm literally posting from the closet in my room, hiding from my children. So when I tell you I am not giving it my all, and these people are repeatedly stopping me and thanking me, I'm telling you, y'all can do this. You can post and do your text in the app. I'll show you in the workshop. It's way easier than people think, especially when you've got a checklist that you're hitting like some or most of the time. It got me into a conversation with Becky Keegan, who was running it's a lot going on downtown. I'm about to give away some secrets. Sorry. It got me in a room with Becky Keegan at FabFest, actually. And I was talking to her and she was like, "Oh my God, thank you so much for that video. I got like 1,000 views," which was crazy. It was when I used a trending sound or whatever. And we started talking about marketing. And I was like, wouldn't it be great if next year you guys could just give them a press kit? Everybody who wants to participate, give them a press kit. This is how you post on social. This is who you should tag. These are some ideas for content. And she's like, "Oh my God, yes, wait, you could teach a workshop." That's where this all came from. And I plan on talking to her later after we've tested this and seen how it's gone, see if she wants to help artists participating in that in the same way. And what it also got me was the information that she rents out her studios on Fridays for like maybe $200. So if I wanted the solo show that I've been kind of mulling over that's going to happen this summer, this debut of the band, we're going to call it an album release. Now I know where I can go. If nothing else happens, I've got a spot. And that only happened because I showed up and I had the conversations and I acted like I knew what I was doing and I was confident, even when I was nervous. And I spoke the ideas out loud. I said what I wanted to do. Communicate well and show gratitude. I'm going to get on a little bit of a soapbox. I apologize. Shouldn't touch the mic. First of all, this goes back to that invitation with Kim when it comes to communicating promptly. I left 6 months on the table. There's no excuse outside of just self-belief, and I really kick myself for that. But something to keep in mind is some of these events and organizations, things change on the fly, and if you are not checking your messages and making yourself available, you might miss out on opportunities just by not responding promptly. Another thing is to give benefit of the doubt. Example being, I struggle with names, and once I make eye contact with somebody, my brain goes blank, and I'm like, crap, I know I've met you, and I have no idea what your name is. And something I learned in technology was just say, nice to see ya, and then you're good. So I try to extend everybody else the benefit of the doubt in the same way, because I think we're all a little anxious, and I don't know about you guys, but I'm constantly in like headless chicken mode, especially being a mom. So my brain is a little scrambled, and I try to rest easy and knowing I feel like maybe that's just the artistic way, because we're all doing our best, and I think a little benefit of the doubt and empathy goes a really long way. Send that freaking thank you email, especially if you're impressed with something. Tell them how great the reception was. Like, don't blow smoke, but if you had a good time, go send the feedback. It can really make somebody's day, and that has to do with building relationships. Again, this isn't something I did with an ulterior motive. Blame it on my mama. This is how she taught me to operate. But it goes a really long way, and who doesn't like to be told thank you? Tell them what impressed you, whether it was assets that they gave you or the music at the reception or whatever. I can't tell you the joy I've seen on people's faces when I just share a little thank you. And be valuable. To me, this is the most important one, and this is the soapbox. I lied. Okay. I see working with guilds as a mutually beneficial relationship, or it should be. These groups, from what I've seen, don't have massive marketing budgets or departments. A lot of them are nonprofits, so the funding is limited and the resources are scarce. And frankly, there has been some feedback I've heard from people, other artists, about a level of dissatisfaction over support from different galleries or guilds, which is wild to me. Because when you think about it, like, what is it, 60 a year? Some places are between 60 and 120, I would say, depending on what association you're looking at. That's like $5 a month. Do you have any idea how little reach you get for $5 a month on meta ads? I don't. It's not going to get you anywhere. I can tell you that much for sure. Even $10 a month. So just for the amplification on social and access to things, to me, that's enough. But personally, what I've gotten at my membership this year, and I didn't do this because Jessica told me, it's because I really believe it honestly, and I'm very passionate about trying to get people to participate in this way, but you get the discount on applications to shows, a decreased cost of commission on sales. I got on the frickin' front cover of a newspaper. Excuse me? What? Because I was here? Because of the connections they have here? My work was recently published in Lake Norman Magazine. Do you think that they would have answered my emails? Maybe now that I have a digital footprint, but probably not. Okay, that happened because I was here. Access to sell work in the shop. I was featured as a member. Thank you. What a gift. Online support groups have started interacting, like the painting group on Facebook, which is really fun, and we get to share work, especially when I can't show up in person to the in-person open studios that are also available. I at least have the online space I can interact in. They have countless free artist talks. and discounted workshops. We'll get to that in a minute. It gave me the opportunity to give the artist talk and facilitate the workshops. And again, repeated amplification on social. All of these things take time, money, effort, and showing up with your files clean and organized, prospectus followed, and taking some initiative to tell your own story. All of this together incentivizes galleries to want to work with you, to interact with and reshare your content. It will also arm them with the backstory to sell your work when you are showing up and sharing your story and sharing it with them and interacting, because they are the ones here face to face with the people looking at your work. You are not here all the time. You want to make yourself easy to believe, to invest in, to pour time and resources into. Take the time to provide, again, clear photographs, present professionally. This all tells the gallery your value, that you take time to honor your work with proper presentation. You make it easier to sell your work. I'm gonna look at my notes. I'm sorry, it's getting to be that time of day. Okay, how you present yourself matters. Getting visible communicates that you're taking this seriously enough to show up digitally and online and work past the vulnerability that holds most people back and many people don't overcome. Getting organized teaches people to associate value with your work. Acting professionally teaches others to associate, Getting organized teaches you, yourself, to take it seriously enough to invest the time. I'm sorry, I flubbed that up. Acting professionally teaches others to associate value with you and your work. And all of these together teach others how they should communicate with you, value you, speak about you, and what they should expect from working with you. And not only that, it'll help you combat the fear of how you're being perceived, because you're controlling the narrative. If you take control, if you take yourself seriously, if you decide what your first impression is going to be like, what your digital footprint is, and what your story is, you can enter the space a little bit more confidently. And that's what took me from this one exhibit, one gallery award. Oh, this is uncomfortable. This is where we are now. 21 exhibits in 3 different states with 12 different galleries and venues, 7 events, 5 publications, 3 awards, 2 shops carrying my work. I got tapped into being included in a private collection, and now I gave an artist talk. We're almost done, so I'm putting that on the list. So I'll ask, what would happen if you actually tried with the marketing? Perfect segue. May 6th, I'm giving a workshop. Like I said, this isn't a go viral quick anything. It's not a master plan to success, but it is the foundation that will help determine your success and everything else you do. Geez, there we go. I'm so glad you were recording for that one. I think Kristen said I was going to make you laugh, so hooray. Attendees I almost want to say that over again. Attendees will receive guidance and templates for a central system for your artwork and content inventory, a press kit, and some worksheets for building your artist statement and bio. And your membership, if you sign up before you register for the class, it will get you in for only $15 as opposed to $75. If you are not a member, it is $85. And then we're going to take everything from that and go into this second workshop and figure out all that work you did before. How do we apply it to your digital presence, to build your SEO, to share on social, so you're checking these boxes and building the web so you show up and you can battle against the AI crap on the internet / all of the people with a ton of money to get their work in front of people ahead of people who don't, who just have the skill and the drive. That one is June 14th. I'm going to provide outlines for building captions and direction on videos, some sample posting schedules, and some guidelines on how to repurpose your content so you can stop asking yourself, what am I going to post today? You take the same concept and you post it 3 different ways on 3 different platforms. And just like that, you've exponentially grown your reach while spending less time worrying about it. And then checklist to hit the marks for SEO. What do you guys want to know? Oh, geez. Thank you. Okay. Does anybody have any questions? I definitely left lots of time, so you can pick my brain.
I absolutely loved everything you said today. So insightful, so helpful.
Thank you.
Tell us about, if you can, some of the organizational tools that you used. You showed a little bit of it to show what your mediums were, the dimensions. Like, do you do it in Excel, or do you use an application that helps with that for artists?
No. Does that exist?
I don't know.
I'll show you. This is it. This is what I've made for myself. Please be proud. Leslie, oh, it's not showing, is it? Hold, please. Change. There we go. Ooh. It's nothing wild, guys, but it's something that you don't have to build. It's got a space for a name, medium, like substrate versus like what kind of paint or whatever. We'll probably clear some of that out, show you guys how to set it up. Dimensions, years, availability, is it framed, price, gallery price, because we are aware of commission and where I've submitted it. Is it fully filled out? No. But I have it now. And I wish I had started it when I only had 5 pieces, as opposed to, I've been very busy. I was really losing my mind when I quit my job. So we made lots of art last year. And then I was able to take that and replicate it into a print inventory sheet that I still need to clean up. Ignore that, that's not right. But I could go in and start to denote what I have available and what sizes, prices, am I presenting it framed or matted, and all of that. And the goal is to actually combine this with your content. So if you're posting ideally from a tablet or like a desktop or a laptop, copy, paste, you can stop figuring out all of the content, the captions, SEO for your website, all of that. And it's just all done when you get the piece started or done. Rad. It never went that smoothly at my previous job. Yes. So it's a Google slide template, like I showed you with some of my artwork for prints at the shop, and that will export to a PDF. So then you can keep it updated. If you don't like the spreadsheet, you can do it in Google Slides, keep all of your content there, and export as a PDF to take to apply to shops. That's okay. I thought I recognized you.
Just send it to us.
Oh, yes. Let me see if I can get over here. There we go. If you want to scan that. It's going to be a form. It's going to ask you what went well, what didn't, because I genuinely would love to know. You don't have to fill it out. You can put NA if you need to, and I will send it to you guys later this week because I want to make sure I grab my notes from the speaker notes, such as like the galleries that I've worked with, and give that to you guys. Yes?
You mentioned your career in marketing. I also am in marketing currently and juggling kind of
Respect.
the shift of, digital creativity versus the call to do something with your hands.
Yeah.
What led you, you mentioned you rage quit, which I envy and respect at the same time. What made you finally get to that point where you're like, okay, now's the time where I need to leave this identity behind and pursue this one? And then what kind of changes did you experience? Like once you finally committed and made the jump to being an artist full time, positive and negative, like how did that impact, especially because you mentioned, your love of checking boxes, you kind of have that high achieving personality. How did all that kind of come to play?
I knew it was time to go when we got a really aggressive timeline for an internal company launch for data and AI. I saw the writing on the wall early, and I managed this project, managed expectations, and it was still not fast enough, and it really blew up in spite of all of the things that I tried to prevent, and I tried to problem solve for the rest of the year. And it just felt like the more I identified ways we could solve problems, the more I became the problem, and I felt suffocated. Every horrible thing that was happening, gaslighting, I don't need to go into it. It doesn't matter. I got like 3 yeses in the art space for every horrible thing at work. And it was really just wearing on my mental health. And eventually our new director, and I'll say it, he was a man with less experience who got put over me and my boss who were women who had been there longer. And he was essentially saying, I don't care about all of these processes that you want to solve with AI. You have to use generative AI. And I couldn't look myself in the mirror anymore continuing to use it because I fought it pretty hard and it became an ethics thing. And so I decided to put my money where my mouth was, and I snapped. And I went and I told Kim I was quitting, and before Black Friday, we got 7 Devils up, and I decided to quit the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. So then I quit on that Monday. And then I took 2 days off, and I dropped off my stuff on Thursday and maybe sent an email to HR on the way out, and promptly had a panic attack on the way home. And then it was December, which was holidays, so the most opportune time to quit your job. And we were taking the kids to Disney. So I was like, ooh, this is a great decision. So it was a lot of delusion, getting lost in Mickey Mouse land, frankly. Thank God we had planned ahead. And just staying too busy that I couldn't freak out. I had markets. I had one in Concord. I had in-person events. I was trying to get my shit together to get ready for prints because I really wanted to get prints over there, which I just took recently. I stayed busy. I gave myself time to panic, and I reassured myself that I've never let myself down before. So as much as all of this is really uncertain and scary in the grand scheme of all of the things right now, I felt better that I was in control of my success and that I was no longer pouring all of my efforts into, frankly, a company that didn't care about me, that was just driven to go from 40 billion to 50 billion or whatever. So it was scary and crazy, but I feel like I'm in a completely different body physically from the lack of stress, in spite of not having a salary or healthcare or a 401k anymore, or literally all of the things that I identified with success. What has helped is saying what I want to do, like telling Jessica I want to do these workshops and I want to help, and now we're here. And leaning on people, I've found some really cool fellow artists that I like talk to, and we validate each other's experience. So community is a big one. And music, scream crying to the new Hayley Williams album a lot, frankly. And painting all the time. My landscapes I escaped to, I painted those a lot when I was super stressed at work, and my musical instruments are more kind of reactive, and I can get like engrossed in a song, which is where I've been kind of lately. So a little bit of everything. Did that answer your question? You're welcome. Yes.
So with the advent of AI, my understanding is SEO is becoming less relevant given the way the AI searches are working. True, false?
False. False. Because what is the AI pulling from?
Content more so than tags.
So tags are a way of establishing content because it associates, for example, if you post something here, that painting right there, and you tag Mooresville. Now that painting and whatever words you associate with that, whether that is the alt text, which is like what is there for screen readers with people, for people with visual impairments, if they've got a screen reader telling them what they're looking at, that adds to SEO. The title of the file on social or your website adds to SEO. Tagging the location associates it with that. All of it becomes content, more so in the age of AI. So it's not SEO in the traditional sense that you're going to go manually put in keywords into an SEO plugin into WordPress like we did back in 2012. It's all content, because I can tell you confidently, a year ago, if you searched who I was, you weren't going to find anything. But if you search now, you will. Did that? Excellent. Yes. I see you. I'm both. I'm an artist and a musician. I picked up keyboard at age 9, flute in 5th grade, guitar when I was 14, and I worked at a music store for 11 years. I love music. If I had to go deaf or blind, I'd pick blind, which I'm sure feels wild. Yeah, I'd love to see. You should. I'm a big fan. speaks to my soul. And I love like going to shows and being around musicians. It's not lost on me what spending 11 years around professional musicians, artists, did for me. You have held your hand up several times. I'm so sorry.
I've started researching a lot of different things to apply to.
Ooh, yeah.
My question for you though is, okay, when someone charges to apply to something, or it's free to apply to something, in your mind, does that make it less or more valid? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
because I've been told from older artists, way older, that a legitimate gallery or exhibition is going to pay their artist to be there, as opposed to you have to apply and then all these people don't get in.
Yeah.
So there's all these different narratives in my head I've heard. So I'm
Mhm.
curious what your opinion is.
I think that's fair. I've not encountered a gallery that pays me to put my artwork in there, so I would love to know where those are. I look at a couple different things when I'm evaluating whether or not I feel like something's worth it financially. Usually the threshold is 50. If it's over 50, I'm probably not doing it, except for that landscape book, because I was like, this seems cool. That's kind of the threshold. If it's more than that, I start wondering, what are you doing with that? I know the cost of operating a lot of these things is expensive. But I look at their digital presence, frankly. I look at how legitimate they are, and things that flag to me that they're legitimate is if they have an active audience base, if they're posting regularly, what value are they providing? I looked at what tags they are, and I looked them up on Reddit, frankly. I think that there's a lot of power and value to spaces that offer exhibition space without a cost for entry, and I really think that can be powerful when you are not confident enough to shell out the money, not knowing if you're going to get a return on investment. But again, when I think about, say, $30 to apply, $40 even for a show that runs for 2 months, where they're going to post about me at least once, and I've got a show to be in, I'm out public facing. When you consider how much it costs to go have your stuff in a storefront, unless you're on consignment, that's where I start to think, like, I feel like it's worth it. So if they feel legitimate, I see how they operate and then kind of go from there. Anybody else? Yes.
Rachel, first of all, thank you for giving us this time and sharing your story. I feel in the same way that you were saying, where you're working, trying to make your art, at some point you have to do that jump. I haven't get to that point.
Fair.
I'm forced. I feeling myself and actually changing my lifestyle towards it. So I'm an emerging artist, basically.
You are. Not kind of. Seriously, you got to change. All of you have to change that language a little bit. There's a difference. Continue. Sorry.
And then, so now that you're going through all of this, like, what would it be a good advice that you can provide for somebody like me that is starting to get the process?
Do you need a safety net? Do you have a safety net? And if not, what do you need to do to feel confident making the jump? Because for me, it was info gathering for like a year and a half. So now I know how to set up a print on demand site if I want to have that income stream. I know, and that's what a lot of artists will tell you, have multiple income streams. I know what those could look like because I've spent the time researching. That gave me the reassurance personally. So I think you have to ask yourself, where is the discomfort and how can you address that? Or you can rage quit like me and just like see what happens. But again, like, I've spent a lot of time really looking at, like, how does this work? How can I get in? How can I build momentum? Because if you just jump in and tell the internet, I'm an artist now, and here's my website, and here's my snail mail club, and here's my classes, like, you're not established. Nobody's going to care. Nobody's going to believe you. So I think a little bit of foundational work goes a long way. Does that dodge the question or answer the question?
When I see my work, is more like I take too long to produce a piece. It's probably the way that I want to. Yes, no, I don't want to rush my thing.
Okay.
So I'm in between. Okay, this needs to be working financially, but also my time is too long to make it last.
Yeah. Ooh. It's a good question. So I will answer it, but I also want to segue and make sure it's clear. I don't have the intention of selling a bunch of workshops and digital assets online. Like, if I have tools that are helpful for y'all, I'm going to make them available. I love the idea of helping here. That said, I want to open consultation services to help people problem solve in this way because I find this really fun. So what I'm hearing is it takes a long time to get a piece completed. So diversifying your income stream and making sure you're pricing your work appropriately is going to be it, which means you're going to rule out a lot of potential buyers for your work. That doesn't mean they're not there. You just need to get that work in front of the people with the pockets that will buy it, and then figure out how can you make all of that work for you. Is it a YouTube channel with royalty-free music and time lapses? Is it a Patreon subscription where people get behind the scenes information like a newsletter and a print in the mail? There are so many different avenues for making products and selling services or entertainment online. And in my opinion, we're in the age of a new renaissance when it comes to art. So now is the time to lean into some of these things, especially in the face of AI. So that's what I would recommend looking at, is like, how do you diversify your income and price your work appropriately so that you're able to meet your financial goals? The marketing person's coming out, sorry. And you can feel comfortable. Does that help?
Yes.
But I'd be more than happy to like talk through different options based on what I've seen. And I am not the be-all, end-all person of knowledge. I'm more than happy to share my sources because there are people who have been doing this way longer than me. I just like to stalk them all on the internet and take a lot of notes. Yes.
When you mentioned the safety net, may I ask what your safety net was?
My husband works full-time for my brother. Real honest. And that A to Z logo you saw, that's for his company that I branded. And my brother bought another company, so I feel much better. Real transparent. My husband got salary and he's elevated his role. That was kind of some of what came to a head last year, as we were both getting into leadership positions while having kids, while I'm pursuing this full time. And it just was too much, especially with how driven both of us are. And I needed to channel that in a way that kept me okay so I could show up for my family the way I wanted to. Not because I wanted to be just a stay-at-home mom. There's nothing wrong with that. I did want that as a kid because I loved that. But I'm a very driven, high-achieving person, so I still need a way to like focus that energy. So the safety net is my drive and my older brother's ambition.
Can you talk a little bit about, I imagine there's some sort of balance between when you're submitting for shows or gallery exhibits, creating new works specifically for an exhibit and maybe pulling something old that just kind of like works with the theme.
So thoughts on creating on the fly versus...
Yeah, or creating a work for a specific exhibit to submit.
I've done both. In the beginning, when I only had a handful of pieces, it was mostly looking for open-ended calls, which was very helpful. But I've done both. I did a Beatles piece that I never would have done, respectfully, for the Fab Fest show because I thought the opportunity for exposure was there. And it also was a challenge because I hadn't done anything like that in a minute. I've been looking for new opportunities to get my music work out there, and I found a call for art specifically for jazz and Boone, and I just started looking. North Carolina theme that I'm looking for, calls for art, and putting those in quotations online. Yeah. I have an easier time with that than creating for a show. While I do really well with like the pressure of a short timeline, I just don't feel like a lot of these give me quite enough time to put in the thought that I would want. I do highly recommend not pigeonholing your work into an exhibit because I feel, and Jessica, correct me if I'm wrong, that jurors and judges can probably tell when you're trying to make a piece fit into a show versus it fitting naturally, or is that not really a concern? Yeah.
And every judge and every juror is different. So I've worked with over 50 by now. Wow. And they're all different.
Yeah.
Keep that in mind.
Yeah, they all have very different tastes for sure. Different personalities and feedback. That's one thing I highly recommend you guys go and read the notes from the judge at all of these shows that offer awards. I think it's very helpful to get an idea for what they're looking for on every single one of these. She references framing. So just food for thought. Did that answer your question, kind of? Okay. Anybody else? Yes?
So, when I first got here, we spoke for a few minutes. I've been an artist and photographer about almost 2 years.
Okay.
And I just want to make sure, I guess, validation, I'm on the right track. So,
okay.
I'm getting the reps in every day shooting.
Heck yeah.
So, getting the experience, composition, lighting, all that stuff, the fundamentals, to make sure I'm getting stronger and stronger in that as far as being the hardest part.
Okay.
I created the website.
Sick.
I got my online shop on my website.
All right.
Got all that. I've got business cards going, and doing all the things I think is right. I'm getting the socials every day with my work.
Okay.
And now now that I've got that established, I want to make sure that, okay, now I need to like get my name out there in other avenues, like, I'll be doing the photography contests, that here. I'm entering a couple of other contests online. Good. So now I probably just need that part of patience.
Yeah.
To see if that traction will start getting the wheels locked into the pavement, I can get going.
Yeah.
Or is there anything else that I'm missing where I can get that traction sooner?
What's your goal? Doing it full time?
No, not really. I want to be good at it. I want to get my work out there. Galleries, people buy my work. I want that. Not necessarily full time, I don't think.
Okay.
But I want to establish. Like, I've already had a client on a shoot. I want to do some more client stuff and get that out there. So.
Okay.
I guess being new, I'm not sure what I want to do with it yet. I
Fair.
just want to make sure I'm in the right direction, that I'm doing all the right things.
So getting organized early, building a web presence earlier rather than later obviously helps build all of the data where you're searchable and findable. What I'd recommend is really digging into what your goals are, even if they're broad, because that will tell me what you need to do. If you're wanting to get into galleries, I would be very mindful about the content, the caption, how I'm titling things, and the descriptions I put on my website. Making sure that it's clear things are framed or ready to hang, or that you're an exhibiting artist active in these guilds looking for more galleries. You're going to have to put it out there that that's what you want, and then start to think through where are these people now, and get your content, your posts in front of them. And then I think showing up physically, whether it's the photography salons or these artist talks, or just walking into some of these galleries and introducing yourself, I think goes a really long way, that I think I've been too intimidated to do for entirely too long. And then seeing if you can find some mom friends to share your work in some mom Facebook groups if you're wanting to get some clients. I think would probably, the power of moms, frankly, can go a long way. That's a little secret weapon I have for people who want to do more portraits or senior portraits and things like that. I'm like, I'll share your stuff in the mommy group. But you have to know what you want to do and where you're going to figure out how you get there. So not to avoid, but I say I'm the queen of clarity and context. So, oh no, you're good.
I was going to say, can you talk a little bit more about the guilds? I feel like I might have a wrong understanding of them. I thought that it was like an invitation thing, like you were invited to a guild and then you would pay dues. Is it like you just say, hey, I would like to?
You don't even have to talk to anybody. You can go on the internet right now. I think there are some, there's certain levels here based on contributions. I recently joined American Women Artists, frankly, for the notoriety, because I think it can do something when you're applying to bigger shows. I think some levels there, like what your membership title is, can be invitation based, but I think most guilds will happily accept your membership and your participation. Yeah? Okay.
We're a guild here. We don't, that's not in our name anymore. It's in our legal name, but we're a guild. So it's a two-way street. Become a member, become part of the community, connect with local artists, join in camaraderie. That's really what a guild is. We try to help where we can, provide opportunities, provide resources like we're doing today. So yeah, it's not, I don't know of any invitational ones. I think there are certain organizations like American Watercolor Society where you have to enter so many times and then you are accepted as a member.
That group is intimidating. Anybody who's a watercolor artist here, I really respect you. I do not have the patience. Yes.
Sorry.
No, don't apologize.
This is the first time I heard that word tonight. So, is there a difference between a membership and a guild? Because what you just described.
So you would be a member of this as a
Mhm.
guild.
So this is a guild, but like you just mentioned it's society. You didn't use the word guild. That's what I meant.
Yeah, it's just different terminology.
Mhm.
But
So how do I know when I'm looking them up if it's
yeah, they should
a
be able to-
random membership that is a society always a guild or no?
So what things I would look at, how they're titling it, guild, membership, what is it? Residencies, like if you're a resident artist, they offer that at the VAPA Center. I'd look at that, look at their about pages, and look at their application process and kind of go from there to figure things out. I do a lot of searching with the word Reddit at the end, honestly.
Okay, so what? Just sorry. What is your definition of guild? Right now, of a guild.
Is it a group of artists that all pay and work together to put on art stuff?
yeah, it's not you have to be bred and pay.
Yeah,
It's
fair.
more just a group, a community.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's like it can be a society that you're a membership of, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm trying to understand here.
Yeah,
So
you have guilds, you have leagues, you have societies. I mean, they all are a little bit different, but it just depends. You have to just research each individual one. Like we're a nonprofit organization, we're a guild, but we're also a gallery and we're also an education center. So every group is different. You just have to do a little bit of research, but come talk to people, and then you don't have to get on the internet and get lost.
yeah, it's overwhelming. I think some of those words get used intentionally because to me, society feels a little more, guild feels a little bit more open-ended access, but that's the marketing brain. Yeah. Not good or bad. Yes.
In regards to names and making something kind of cohesive and simple within that, I noticed yours art by Rachel J Haungs for your website.
Mhm.
Do you find, and through your extensive research, did you find that using your name versus using a kitschy title or some other name to describe what you do,
Yeah.
is it more beneficial one way or another that you found? I know name recognition obviously can be huge.
Yeah. I think it's going to be easier using your name because you're going to have to build a brand if you don't. If you go by whatever studio. Because when you're applying to these exhibitions, are you applying with your studio name or are you applying with your legal name? They're going to be posting out whatever name they have. I just feel like it's just a little bit easier, lower barrier to entry. And I also didn't want to have to go through trademarking searches and copyright searches for other people in existence. I did enough branding and naming at work. I just was like, I have a unique, not legal name. I still haven't changed it legally. So let me see if the URL is available. And it was. And I tried to go for something short so it wouldn't have to take up a huge amount of space on a business card. That was frankly about all the thought that I put into it. Because I knew the hurdles I didn't want to overcome based on my experience and brand. So my recommendation is don't make it harder on yourself, but if you feel really passionately about building your own brand, if my name was still going with Rachel Johnson, maybe I would do something to spice it up a little bit because there's a lot more Rachel Johnsons in the world than there are Rachel J Haungses. Hopefully there's just one. Could just use the last initial if you want. Figure out what part of your name you want to be recognizable and go with that. For sure.
Taking off of that.
Sure.
You see some of my work.
Mhm.
I always saw myself as Spear 7. So
Mhm.
my studio is Spear 7 Canvas, Spear 7 Art. Should I probably change it to like Trevor Bowman or just Trevor Bowman presented by Spear 7? I don't know. I sign all of it with that Spear 7 is what I sign all my.
What's your social web look like?
Spear 7 Canvas.
I think you can make it connected. Personally, I wouldn't reinvent unless you feel really strongly like you've already been doing it. And I think it would be more detrimental to start changing how you sign things and how you show up and have to pivot and redirect people than leaning into what you've already established. But I think that's up to you to determine. I would, at this point, yeah.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. It's just my 2 cents, though, so take it with a grain of salt.
I agree. It's a cool name.
Agreed. Yes? I love silly questions. Fair. Yes. I'm going to be very cognizant of the people in the room. And honestly tell you when I have paid for the nicer framing, it's paid off, and I just integrate it into my pricing and I try to prepare. So there are some really excellent framers. There's one down the street, Kim at Four Corners Framing Gallery. I have also been to Frame Warehouse in Huntersville. Respectfully, that's a little bit more my price point. For now, I want to take my stuff to Kim, but I got to take baby steps based on my lack of income now. Before that, I would look on Facebook Marketplace for used frames. I looked at places like TJ Maxx or whatever the other one is, Ross, or the one at North Cross. They've got pre-made art. You can pull the art right out. Just use the frame. Michael's, I would just pay close attention to how it looks. And if you're going for less expensive frames, be intentional and maybe pick some that look good together or have a consistent style. So what I've been doing is if I cannot get it professionally framed, I am getting wood edges that kind of complement the nature of my work, being mountains. And I try to go with the same type of stain so it looks cohesive. So even though I'm using something less expensive, everything actually looks more expensive because it's all cohesive. So there's a way to make it work without having to invest a ton, but understand that when you do, it can really pay off, and it really makes a difference in presentation. Yes.
So I do big work, the 48 is pretty much the smallest.
Yeah.
And the 48 the 48.
Oh.
And it just is not an option for me to get those large pieces framed. So
Fair.
I do use the museum when they have to get to those
Yes.
I know it looks so much better framed, but maybe one day.
There's ways to get around it too, and ways to elevate just like the edge. So 100%, if you can afford the 1.5 inch depth, go for that. And I hate painting edges. I'm going to be really honest. I hate extending it, but you know what? I did it for the winter juried exhibition, and it looked so much better when I do it with my watercolor pieces too, when I leave the nice edge. It really makes a difference. So you can also look at the deeper canvas to keep it contained. Yeah. It's all stuff I've learned. I used to paint all the way edge to edge, and now I'm leaving white space to title it and sign it, even though I don't want to. I'm rebellious for some reason. Did that answer your question? Anybody else? You guys were so interactive. Yes.
Off of that, I'm looking around here. Is it typical for galleries to require a piece to be framed, or are some of them open to just like a raw canvas like that without something around it?
So that one looks like 1.5 inches deep, so that would meet the requirements. Here, it's if it's like raw paper or something, it needs to be framed. If it's on a canvas, it needs to be 1.5 inches deep, ideally. With glass, varnish is dry, but every gallery space is different. There are definitely some that don't require framing. I know nobody wants a clip frame. I still don't even know what that is. I see it on every prospectus, is don't use clip frames. But you really need to dig into the prospectuses and consider presentation. But even spaces not in a gallery, if you want to go show in like a coffee shop or something, you could very well get away with just matting something. I also recommend, if you can, get professional matting done. It looks a lot better than trying to do it yourself. And then you can display them that way. Any other thoughts? You guys were so great. I cannot thank you enough. That was very anxiety inducing. But exposure therapy is where it's at. It'll be worse when I watch the video later. So thank you guys so much. I appreciate it. Did everybody get that? I can put it back up. No, as I unplug it. Oh, I got you.
Real quick too, Rachel will be painting live with us Friday night. We have a
Yes.
gallery crawl. So us, Four Corners Jewelry will be open this coming Friday, the 24th, 6 to 8. You can come see Rachel again. And then
Less talking.
Today this event served place for our painters meetup. The next one is May
Word.
17th. There's no charge. That's a Sunday, so 2 to 4. If you're interested, put your name and email, and we'll email you and remind you and beg you to come. But it's a great group. It's just artists to get together. You can bring works in progress, get feedback, get tips. Karen was asking about her paintings. It's a very casual, small group, probably like 10-ish people, but it's a really talented group of painters. And we also have a photographers meetup, and that's